Hello students, good morning everybody. Welcome to our YouTube channel. If I am audible, let me know. हाँ जी guys, एक बार बता दीजिए whether I am audible or not. हाँ जी, okay, audible. Okay, so let's start the session for today. Now, the major front news that we have in today's session is related to direct tax kitty crosses 80% of 2023-2024 target. So this is the topic related to direct taxes. I think everybody is aware about direct taxes क्या होते हैं, and now I will try to give you a certain data so that you are able to understand. Gross direct tax collections amount to 17.18 lakh crore, showing a year-on-year growth of 16.77%. Net direct tax collection after refund stands at 14.70 lakh crore, reflecting a year-on-year growth of 19.41%. The net corporate income tax has grown by 12.3%, and the net personal income tax has grown by 27.26% year-on-year. Refunds amounting to 2.48 lakh crore have been issued between April 1, 2023 and January 10, 2024. Now, this is a very good collections that are coming from when we call about direct taxes. Now, when I talk about direct taxes, let me give you a little bit more introduction and a little bit more into the topic of what is a direct tax. So, when we say direct tax, it implies one thing: the person on whom the tax will be levied, has to pay the tax. Now, this is the one of the thing that we can say related to direct tax. Now, direct tax can be of like income tax, we can say corporate tax, right? ये सारे taxes किसके ऊपर आते हैं? Direct taxes के अंदर. And you can also add wealth tax in relation to this direct taxes. So this is a point that we have to understand in context of direct tax. The person on whom the tax is levied, he has to bear the burden of paying the tax. He cannot shift the burden to someone else. If they are able to shift the burden to someone else, then that is not a direct tax. That becomes a classic case of indirect tax. Now, when we talk about indirect tax, then we have a lot of other, we can say variety of taxes, like starting from GST, we have excise duty, we have custom duty, we have VAT, right? So these are all the examples of indirect taxes. So these are the two type of taxes that we have when we talk about our taxation structure in India, that is direct taxes and indirect taxes. इसके अलावा एक और we have classification of taxation, that is progressive versus regressive. Now, when I talk about progressive taxes, it means as the income of a person rises, the burden of tax or the, let's say, the amount of tax also increase, right? जैसे जैसे लोगों की इनकम बढ़ती है उतना ज़्यादा टैक्स का अगर हम बात करें रेट क्या बढ़ता जाता है. So we can say direct taxes are classic example of progressive taxes, because as you go beyond a certain income bracket, then your rate of taxation also increases. So I can say direct taxes are example of progressive taxation. But when we see regressive taxation, it means, let's assume one person is earning 100 rupees per month, one person is earning 1000 rupees per month, but they are buying certain products, like they are buying oil, right? दोनों oil खरीद रहे हैं, सरसों का तेल खरीद रहे हैं, sunflower oil, the oil they are buying, any oil they are buying at the same cost, and the cost has inclusive of taxes involved in it, right? जो भी आप प्रोडक्ट खरीद रहे हैं उसके अंदर टैक्सेस क्या है? ऑलरेडी इन्वॉल्व है. सो आई कैन से इन दिस पर्टिकुलर कंटेक्स्ट that despite being both earning different amount of income, they have to pay the same taxes for purchasing the same quality of oil. So as a result, we can say that most of the indirect taxes are the part of regressive taxation, that as the income of a person rises, the percentage of taxation decreases as compared to other persons. This is the point that we have to understand in this whole context. Clear है ये चीज? So indirect taxes अगर हम बात करते हैं ज्यादातर किसकी examples होती हैं? Indirect taxes are a part of regressive taxation, and when we talk about direct taxes, they are a part of progressive taxation. So these are the 2 points that we have to keep in mind when we are studying about this whole topic, right? So direct taxes का इन्होंने बताने की कोशिश करी है. Then when we talk about corporate tax, when we talk about income tax, there has been increase, and we have already achieved 80% of the target that we had in the year 2023 to 2024. Okay. Now, moving to the next part, Now, this is a very, very important rankings that have come related to Swachh Swarakshan survey. I think you must be knowing this particular aspect, that this Swachh Swarakshan survey has been, let's say, in practice since 2016. Now it covers almost 4477 cities. Very important prelims fact, that when we talk about Swachh Swarakshan survey, earlier it used to analyze how many cities? It used to analyze 73 cities, but now it analyzes 4477 cities. An evaluation of this year was done by over 3000 assessors. Nearly 12 crore citizen responses were received. So this is a part we have to understand कि earlier कितनी cities थी और अब कितनी cities है, कितने assessors हैं और कितने citizens का response लिया गया. Now according to this survey, what we have got over here is Surat in Gujarat and Indore in Madhya Pradesh were jointly declared as the cleanest cities of India at the annual Clean City Awards for 2023 by the Urban Affairs Ministry. Now this is a part that we have to understand. We know Indore has been ranking at first since the inception, but one thing you have to also understand is that this year there has been Surat that has come up along with Indore, right? So this is a point that we have to understand. Second important thing is कि ये जब हम बात करते हैं awards की, it is being given by Urban Affairs Ministry. So this is the second point that we have to understand, right? Indore has been adjudged the cleanest city for 7 times in a row. If we talk about the list of top 10 cleanest cities who has a population of more than 1 lakh, then they include, let's say, पहला इंदौर हो गया, साथ में सूरत हो गया, फिर हो गया ग्रेटर विशाखापट्टनम, then you have भोपाल, विजयवाड़ा, न्यू दिल्ली, तिरुपति, ग्रेटर हैदराबाद and Pune, right? So these are the points that we have to understand, that which are the top 10 cities that we have in case of Swachh Swarakshan survey for those cities where population is more than 1 lakh, right? Now there are also other aspects as well in the category of cities with the population of less than 1 lakh. जहाँ पे population 1 लाख से कम है, there Satswad and Lonavala in Maharashtra and Patan in Chhattisgarh secured the top 3 spots. ये top 3 spots किसने ली हैं? Satswad, Lonavala and the Patan, right? And the top 3 spots. The Mahao Cantonment Board in Madhya Pradesh was adjudged the cleanest cantonment board. Varanasi and Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh won the top 2 awards for the cleanest Ganga towns, and Chandigarh won the award for the safest city for sanitation workers. Now this is the point that we have to understand. These are certain rankings, these are certain results of Swachh Swarakshan 2023 that we have to incorporate in our notes. Third important thing is, जो 2023 के जिसके अभी रिजल्ट्स आए हैं, उसका जो सर्वे का थीम था, that was waste to wealth. But when we talk about 2024, this year, the theme of this Swachh Swarakshan survey is reduce, reuse and recycle. Now, I think this is the phrase that you might have seen over the period of time that is quite used as well. That is to minimize the plastic waste. We use particularly this notion, that is reduce, reuse and recycle. So these are the 2-3 points that you need to know and you need to point it down in your notes, right? Where you would be making environment notes, आपको उसके अंदर integrate करना है और वहाँ पे mention करना है कि जब हम स्वच्छ स्वरक्षण सर्वे की बात करते हैं, कौन सी cities जिनकी population greater than 1 lakh है, they are part of the survey. Second is the population with the cities less than 1 lakh who have topped there over there, right? 2 cities of Maharashtra and 1 of Chhattisgarh, which has been the cleanest cantonment board, then which has been the cleanest Ganga towns, and then which is the cleanest city, safest city for the workers, sanitation workers. So these are certain points that you can write it in your notes. Okay. Now moving to the next part. Acha. Now these are not that much important article, if I can say. This is a certain article that we will be discussing that is related to tableau rotational plan for states and union territories is an equitable one. Now one of the things that you have to understand is that there has been a certain debate that has been going on related to this Republic Day parade celebrations, right? So let me give you a more clear picture what is happening. Republic Day parade celebrations थोड़ा सा मैटर पॉलिटिकल है पर फिर भी इसको एक बार डिस्कस कर लेते हैं. Now let us try to understand this whole situation. Now I think everybody knows that we have a Republic Day parade celebrations where there would be certain guests as well, there will be certain heads of the state of various government as well. Now in this context, one thing you have to understand is that the Defense Ministry coordinates all the performances that would be taken at Republic Day parade, and this particular word is being used where a particular states, what we can talk about history or certain important things are being represented through a certain event that is known as tableau. उसको हम क्या बोलते हैं? A word used over here is tableau. That tableau is being used to display a particular event of a state, a particular dance form of a state, a particular historical fact related to a state. So these are certain points that we have to understand. Now this year Defense Ministry has allowed 16 states and union territories to display their tableau at Republic Day parade celebrations. But one thing you have to understand is that there has been certain non-BJP ruled states that have accused the government that they have been discriminated against because they have not been allowed to perform and show their tableau at the Republic Day parade celebrations, and there what we can say proposals have been rejected by the Defense Ministry. Which are those states? Basically अगर हम बात करते हैं पंजाब की बात करें, वेस्ट बंगाल की बात करें, these are those states. But the matter got more worse for the BJP as there were accusations के जो केरला है, तमिलनाडु है, उन्होंने भी यही एक्यूजेशन लगाया है कि हमारे को रिप्रेजेंटेशन करने का मौका नहीं दिया जा रहा इन द रिपब्लिक डे परेड सेलिब्रेशंस. सो वी कैन डिस्कस एंड शो सर्टेन इवेंट्स दैट वी वांट टू शो इट टू द वर्ल्ड दैट व्हाट a particular state brings to the table when we talk about the whole thing of India, right? So these are the certain problems that have been highlighted in this whole we can say Republic Day parade celebrations, where the issues have erupted related to the presence of tableau, right? तो ये चीज आप लोगों को पता होनी चाहिए. Okay, now लेट मी इसके ऊपर ही एक थोड़ा सा और डिटेल में बात कर लेते हैं एक बार, क्योंकि अभी डिस्कस हो ही रहे, तो एक बार मैं फटाफट दिखा भी देता हूं. Tableau proposals from non-BJP ruled states like Punjab, Delhi and West Bengal faced rejection for the Republic Day parade. The Ministry of Defence clarified that their rejected proposals did not align with this year's broader theme and provided historical shortlisting information for Punjab and West Bengal. Similar controversies occurred in 2022 and previous years involving states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Karnataka, leading to the accusations of attacks on federalism and subsequent clarification for approvals. Now over this we can say whole issue is now being going to the idea of federalism, that how federalism has been what we can say not being followed, not being enforced over here. Why? Because certain states have not been given the opportunity of representation in the Republic Day parade celebrations. So this is a part that we have to understand. Okay, now this is a very important text page that has come related to are antibiotics over prescribed in India. Now, I think everybody knows that we are very much skeptic as an informed citizen of and the informed healthy citizen of the country that we need to use minimum of antibiotics. But whenever we feel certain kind of problem that has happened to our internal system, right, we have a certain bacterial infection or we do not have any bacterial infection, might be we are being prescribed antibiotics. Now the things that are happening right now is that the bacteria that were basically treated by earlier antibiotics are not being able to be treated against the latest third or fourth generation antibiotics. So one of the things that is right now a very major concern is antimicrobial resistance, and it has become a major issue and the topic that has been discussing all over the decade, right? It has not been just right now this topic has been discussed, it has been discussed over the decade, that what we can do in order to decrease this process of antimicrobial resistance, plus is in India or in world we can say antibiotics are over prescribed. Now let's try to see what are the various situations that we have, and let's try to decode this whole article. Right now, first of all, we need to understand that there are certain type of bacteria that are very important in Indian context. You can get a direct question on this aspect. The various bacteria are E. coli, Klebsiella, Acinetobacter, Staphylococcus and Enterococcus. Write down this name of 5 bacteria. I am telling you guys, this is most important. E. coli, Staphylococcus, Enterococcus, Acinetobacter, Klebsiella. They have become resistant to some of the latest generation antibiotics. Now this is the point that I am trying to tell you कि ये जो bacteria है ये इसने अपनी resistance draw कर ली है towards a lot of third generation and fourth generation antibiotics. Now what could be the reasons for this? Let's try to find out, right? So there are a lot of reasons that have been discussed over here. We will try to discuss them one by one and you can use them in your notes of topic of GS paper 1 health, right? Now let's try to understand. First of all, it is because of certain combination of factors. Like first factor is inappropriate use of antibiotics in non-bacterial infection, both because of prescribing practices and the use of over-the-counter antibiotics. Sometimes we have seen कि हमें bacterial infection होती भी नहीं है. We are subjected to or we have attracted a non-bacterial infection. Still, there has been certain seen that people want to use antibiotics, plus people are being prescribed as well by the clinicians that you have to use antibiotics. Now this brings us to a very interesting thing, that why there has been a certain surge कि हमें एंटीबायोटिक्स ही लिखी जाती हैं. One of the thing that you can attribute is that most of the people go to government hospitals where there is a lot of, we can say, overcrowding, right? So as a result, the doctors do not have enough time for the patients to actually see that whether the patient is suffering from the bacterial infection or not. Rather, they are just giving at a particular moment ताकि वो मैटर्स को जल्दी जल्दी सॉल्व कर सके, डिले ना हो सके, बिकॉज दे ऑल्सो हैव टू सी दैट देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ क्राउडिंग एज वेल. सो दे प्रिस्क्राइबिंग व्हाट एंटीबायोटिक्स, बट दैट इज नॉट गोइंग गुड फॉर आवर immune system. Why? Because those bacteria is now forming an antimicrobial resistance, because we are taking antibiotics even for the non-bacterial infections. That is a huge concern that is coming out. So one of the important aspect that has been discussed over here is that we are using inappropriate use of antibiotics in non-bacterial infections. Second important point, inadequate lab facilities to inform clinicians rapidly about what would be an appropriate antibiotic even in bacterial infections based on cultures. Now we are not checking which antibiotic would be able to treat a certain bacterial infection. Now there are a lot of different bacteria that has to be fought with different medicines or different doses of antibiotics, but the labs or the laboratory facilities that are there in India are not taking appropriate measures that needs to be taken. So what are clinicians doing? अच्छा bacterial infection है, चलो ये antibiotic दे दो. तो उससे क्या हो रहा है? They are just shooting in the dark. Third important point that they have discussed is lack of adequate training in antibiotic selection, escalation and de-escalation. Self-explanatory है ये. Fourth point, inadequate monitoring of AMR and control of antibiotic prescription and dispensing practices by health systems in spite of repeated warnings. Now the question over here is that yes, government has given certain guidelines, health ministry has given certain guidelines that there has to be a very much restricted use of antibiotics, but still we see there has been overuse of this, over prescription of antibiotics. So if there is an overuse and over prescription of antibiotics, have the health systems put in accountability measures, transparency measures, the checking measures, so that they are able to bring down these particular practices? No. The answer is no. That is why we are seeing over prescription of antibiotics. And the fifth point that they have tried to discuss is incentivization of prescribing practices by the pharmaceutical industry. Now pharmaceutical industry इतना ज़्यादा रोल प्ले करती है जिसकी वजह से भी एंटीबायोटिक्स का रोल बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ चुका है if we talk about treating our normal infections as well. So these are the 5 points that have been mentioned over here that are very important that we have to understand. Second thing that we have to understand is whenever we go to a doctor, they basically, there is a lot of, we can say, government hospitals, then there might be a possibility that they can prescribe you antibiotics without getting your lab results checked that whether this person is patient from a certain bacterial infection or not. So in this context, laboratory conditions and facilities become very important, because they will be the ones that will be helping and aiding us in determining that whether we have actually antibiotic or we can say bacterial infection or not, and whether we require antibiotics or not. So this is a point that has been discussed over here that we need to understand. The more resistance that we need to understand that the bacteria will develop will become very difficult in the upcoming future. If a person has a serious bacterial problem, then they would not be able to get the required medicine, because that bacteria would have already developed the resistance against that particular antibiotic. So this is the point that we have to understand, that in future, if we do not want our antibiotics to fail, we would have to use the consumption of antibiotics in a very, we can say, careful manner. So these are certain points that they have tried to mention over here, and they have tried to say that in India, a lot of what we can say is कि अगर हम बात करें, there have been policies that have been in place, like in 2011 national policy for containment of antimicrobial resistance was included. They had also banned over the counter use of antibiotics, पर ये कभी implement नहीं हुआ. चेन्नई डिक्लेरेशन इसके रिलेटेड था, राइट. 2019 ban by the Indian government on the use of colistin as a growth promotional agent in poultry farming is a significant step in regulating antibiotic use. But the most important thing that they have tried to explain over here is that what needs to be done if we really want that we shall be, let's say, coming over this menace of antibiotics. There are 2-3 things that they have tried to tell over here. First of all, that they are trying to say over here is we need to improve public health systems, public health delivery, including sanitation. That is the key to curb any rise in AMR. Even within the country, states with good public health system have lower AMR. The way forward is planned expenditure, structured delivery of services, robust accountability of public health system are all the important factors that will help. Now, one of the things you have to understand is अगर हमें कोई bacterial infection हो रही है, then that might be due to because of the lack of sanitation that we have around us. So we have to improve on that. First, second thing we have to improve on. public health systems, public health deliveries, and in along with that context, we need to have a certain planned expenditure that we need to intake if we want seriously to overcome this problem of antimicrobial resistance. I hope this article is being understood to you guys and it makes a little bit sense as well. Right. Okay. देखो अभी मैं कह सकता हूं कि कुछ चेंजेस हो सकते हैं हिंदू में, कुछ बच्चों को लग रहा है कि कुछ चेंजेस हैं. मेरे ख्याल से आई हैव द दिल्ली एडिशन, राइट, दैट आई एम डिस्कसिंग. ओके. Now the next is related to strained ties in India-Maldives relation. I think everybody is aware of this, what is happening between India and Maldives. Earlier, before this Muizi came on, we had the Soli, right, who was pro-India. So there were a lot of agreements, there was a lot of aid that was given to Maldives during the time of COVID as well. But what we are witnessing right now, that there has been a certain change in the regime and that has become more or more in favor of China. And it can be evident from this fact that they have now signed, China and Maldives have signed 20 memorandum of understanding on different areas of domain. So this is a quite, we can say, big news that comes from China and Maldives. And second, they are trying to develop a comprehensive strategic agreement and partnership as well. So this doesn't augur well for India in terms of geopolitics, right? Now, एक बार फिर से देख लेते हैं क्या मामला था. प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी टूरिज्म प्रमोशन फॉर लक्षद्वीप sparked a social media and diplomatic clash with Maldives, worsening relation. Disparaging remarks led to the suspension of 3 Maldivian ministers, and India expressed concerns impacting travel bookings. The ties improved between India and Maldives under President Soli in 2018, who adopted an India First policy, but concerns arose leading to an India Out campaign. Mohammad Mizuz emerged as an opposition candidate, winning the 2023 presidential election with a shift in foreign policy. Mohammad Mizuz's presidency was marked by distancing with India, prioritizing ties with China, UAE and Turkey. Now the countries with which India does not have a cordial relation. तो मुइज़ ने आते सारी उनके साथ relation ज़्यादा better करने शुरू कर दिए, rather than carry on the policy that was being let's say taken by their predecessor, that was Soli, जो कि इंडिया फर्स्ट की बात करते थे, बट यहाँ पे उन्होंने पॉलिसी स्टार्ट कर दिया इंडिया आउट कैंपेन. दैट वाज क्वाइट एविडेंट, जहाँ पे उन्होंने इंडिया को यूएई में भी बोला COP 28 पे कि आप अपने आर्मी पर्सनल को यहाँ पे हटाइए बिकॉज वी वांट टू मेंटेन आवर सॉवरेनिटी. सेकंड मेजर शिफ्ट टुक प्लेस व्हेन द जॉइंट हाइड्रोग्राफिक सर्वे द एग्रीमेंट वाज देयर, दैट वाज रिवोक्ड बाय मालदीव्स. एंड थर्ड थिंग दैट इज रिलेटेड टू द we can say derogatory comments that have been made passed by the Maldivian ministers, right guys? Okay, now moving to the next part. ये मैंने अभी बताया, Maldives China commit to greater strategic cooperation, signed 20 memorandum of understandings. Israel strikes South Gaza as Blinken is in Egypt for talks, right? Sheikh Hasina sworn in as Bangladesh Prime Minister for 5th term, right? तो ये न्यूज़ आपको पता होनी चाहिए, ठीक है. I don't think that there is another important news that we need to discuss, right? Okay, now एक बड़ी important news है यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हो. Israeli startup plans to connect Dubai, Haifa ports via land to bypass Red Sea. Now they are trying to connect, अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं इजराइल दुबई से कनेक्ट करने की कोशिश कर रहा है, बिकॉज अभी पता है कि आपको रेड सी में हाउदी रिबेल्स ने बहुत ज़्यादा अटैक कर रहे हैं, जिसकी वजह से दे नीड टू हैव अ ऑल्टरनेटिव रूट. सो व्हाट इज इजराइल लुकिंग फॉर? दे आर लुकिंग फॉर अनदर रूट, बट दैट इज नॉट रन बाय through sea, but it is going through land. So this is a point that we have to understand, that because of the attacks that have happened in the Red Sea, as a result global trade has affected a lot. So in order to correct the path, they are looking for different alternatives that has been discussed in this newspaper. Okay, हमारे एग्जामिनेशन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से प्रॉपर वो इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है क्या, हमारा मैप वर्क बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है. क्लियरली टोल्ड यू अगेन एंड अगेन, रेड सी बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है, पर्शियन सी बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है, गल्फ ऑफ अगर हम एडन इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है, रेड सी इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाती है, स्ट्रेट ऑफ बबल मंडेप इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है, और ये सारा रीजन इंडियन ओशन वाला मालदीव से लेकर लक्षद्वीप पे, इट बिकम्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर आवर एग्जामिनेशन एंड फॉर आवर मैप वर्क, बिकॉज यू माइट बी सीइंग अ लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस दैट कैन कम इन एग्जामिनेशन रिलेटेड टू मैप वर्क इन दिस ईयर एग्जामिनेशन, राइट? सो दिस इज इट फ्रॉम मी. इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चन यू कैन आस्क मी. हाइफा इजराइल का ही पार्ट है, आई सपोज. हाँ जी, कोई डाउट है किसी का, आप पूछ सकते हो. ठीक है, न्यूज़पेपर देखो। अच्छा मेरे को कितनी बात बताओ, जितने भी लोग यहाँ पे काफी टाइम से होंगे, एक बात बताओ, इजराइल की रोज न्यूज आ रही है, रशिया यूक्रेन की रोज न्यूज आ रही है, अब इंडिया और मालदीव्स की रोज न्यूज आ रही है, तो हम कह सकते हैं कि बार बार न्यूज रिपीट ही हो रही है। दिल्ली हाईकोर्ट स्टेटमेंट ऑन ऑर्गन ट्रांसप्लांट, आई डोंट थिंक आई हैड इन माय एडिशन, आई वाजंट एबल टू सी दैट। निक्की यादव, आई विल सी इट टुमारो एंड लेट यू नो, राइट। सी न्यूज़पेपर में चीजें रिपीट होनी शुरू हो जाती हैं। अब इंडिया मालदीव्स पिछले 4-5 दिन से चल रहा है, वही 3-4 हमारे आर्टिकल ले जाता है, तो हमारे लिए अच्छी बात है, हमारा काम इजी हो जाता है। न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ना हमारा काम है, एक डेली टास्क का है, जो न्यूज़पेपर में इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूज़ है वो हम कवर कर लें, दैट्स इट। सो वी आर गेटिंग द न्यूज़ एंड दैट इज गेटिंग रिपीटेड ओवर एंड ओवर एंड ओवर एंड ओवर अगेन एंड अगेन, सो दैट बिकम्स वेरी इजी एंड इट बिकम्स आर, लेट्स से इट कम्स आर, लेट्स से गिव्स अ लिटिल बिट एडवांटेज टू अस कि हम अपने जीएस के सब्जेक्ट पे फोकस कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि न्यूज़पेपर थोड़ा सा रिलेटिवली इजी आ रहा है, बट इट माइट चेंज बिकॉज ऑफ द न्यू बजट दैट वुड बी प्रेजेंटेड, राइट, जनवरी में। Okay, anyway, okay. Thank you so much, guys. See you tomorrow, same time, 9 a.m. Till then, take care. Bye bye.